The engine sputtered once, then hummed steadily. It was a sound that always calmed Jalen Trustin, the steady rhythm of a life built 1 mile at a time. He sat behind the wheel of his yellow cab, parked in the driveway of his modest home on Millbury Street. It wasn't much, a two-bedroom house with peeling paint and a rusty mailbox, but it was his. Every inch of it was earned. Every creak of the floor, every cracked window, had a story of its own. And Jalen was proud of it. Proud that he had fought for this life, for his family. Inside, his wife, Saraya, was making lunch for their daughter, Amira. The sound of Amira's laughter filled the house as she chased the cat through the hallway. It was a simple, beautiful sound. Saraya stepped outside, smiled at him through the window, and waved. "You good out there?" "Yeah, just giving her a minute to warm up," Jalen called back, giving her a reassuring smile before heading down the road again. Another day. Another fair. Jalen had spent his whole life in the States. He was born in New Orleans, raised in Jackson, Mississippi. But to Vernon Cale, the neighbor 2 doors down, none of that seemed to matter. Vernon was the kind of man who flew his flag high, put up cameras around his porch, and always had something to say about anyone who didn't look like him. He was retired now, his days spent on the front porch, rocking back and forth with his dog at his feet. And if he wasn't complaining about the weather, he was complaining about the people around him. "Funny how you got that house so quick," Vernon once said, arms crossed, watching Jalen mow his lawn. "Driving a cab can't pay that well." Jalen didn't answer. He just kept pushing the mower, the hum of it drowning out Vernon's words. But Vernon didn't like being ignored. So, he found another way to stir things up. One Tuesday afternoon, Jalen pulled into his driveway after dropping off a fare at the airport. Just as he was about to park, a black SUV with tinted windows slid into his yard and blocked the way. 2 officers stepped out. "Are you Mr. Jalen Trustin?" one of them asked, flipping open a batch. "Yeah, that's me. I'm Officer Dion Ramirez, with Homeland Security Investigations," the officer continued. "We received a tip about your immigration status and employment documentation. We need to ask you some questions." Jalen froze. "What? What do you mean?" "We'd like to see proof of citizenship and any documentation related to your employment." Saraya ran outside, her face filled with confusion and worry. "What's going on?" "It's okay," Jalen said, his voice a little shakier than he intended. "I've got my papers inside." They followed him inside, and Jalen opened the drawer where he kept his birth certificate, passport, social security card, everything that proved his right to be here. Officer Ramirez looked over the papers carefully. "All right," he said, tucking them into a folder. "We'll review these. In the meantime, we ask that you refrain from work until the verification process is complete." Jalen's stomach twisted. "Wait, what? I haven't done anything wrong. We're not accusing you of anything. Just following up on a report." A report. Jalen knew exactly where that report had come from. The days that followed felt like a slow, suffocating crawl. Jalen couldn't drive. Couldn't earn. Bills started piling up, and Amira kept asking him why he wasn't driving anymore. His mind raced as he sat at the kitchen table. Saraya was calm, but Jalen knew that look in her eyes. She was trying to stay strong for him, for the family. They'd worked so hard to get here, and now it felt like everything was slipping through their fingers. Late one night, Jalen stepped outside and stared at Vernon's porch light. He couldn't keep ignoring it. He walked across the yard to Vernon's house, fists clenched. The old man was sitting in his chair, rocking back and forth. Come to gloat. Vernon called, looking up. I know it was you, Jalen said, his voice steady, but with a deep, hurt undertone. You don't know anything, Vernon sneered. Just because you got your name on a mailbox don't mean you belong here. Jalen clenched his jaw. I've been a better neighbor to you than you've ever been to me. You people always say that, Vernon grumbled. Like hard work erases where you came from. Jalen took a deep breath. I came from Mississippi. My dad fought in Desert Storm. My mom was a nurse in Birmingham. But you don't care about any of that, do you? Vernon didn't answer. He just rocked back and forth in his chair, the creaking of the wood the only sound that filled the silence. 3 days later, Officer Ramirez returned to Jalen's house, this time alone. Jalen stepped onto the porch before the officer even knocked. I cleared you, Ramirez said. Your papers are all in order. Someone filed a false tip. Jalen felt a rush of relief. He exhaled slowly. So, I can go back to work. Yes, you're free to resume driving. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Jalen's heart still raced. Thank you, he said quietly, trying to hold himself together. As Ramirez turned to leave, he paused. Can I be honest with you? Sure, Jalen replied. There are a lot of people in my line of work who use the system as a weapon. But there are also people like you. People who remind us what decency looks like. Jalen nodded, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. The next morning, Jalen got back into his cab. Same routine. Same long roads. But the air felt different. Neighbors waved to him more. Some of them came over to apologize. Word had gotten around. But Jalen wasn't looking for sympathy. He didn't need anyone's pity. He needed purpose. So, he did something unexpected. He went to Vernon's house. Vernon looked up from his newspaper, his eyes narrowing. I brought you lunch, Jalen said, holding out a brown paper bag. Vernon squinted. Is this some kind of joke? No joke. Just figured maybe you're lonelier than you let on. Vernon didn't take the bag, but he didn't send Jalen away either. The next day, Jalen brought coffee. The day after that, they sat in silence on Vernon's porch. No words. Just the sound of the wind and the creaking of the chair. Weeks passed. The conversations started small. Weather. Baseball. Gas prices. And then, one day, Vernon shared something heavier. I was 17 when my dad made me watch a man get beaten for marrying a black woman, Vernon said quietly. He said it was justice. I thought it was normal. Jalen didn't say anything. He just let the words hang in the air. I don't know how to unlearn 50 years of that, Vernon whispered. You start by shutting up and listening, Jalen said. And Vernon did. One afternoon, Jalen came home to find a letter taped to his front door. It was written in shaky handwriting on notebook paper. I was wrong. Not just about you, but about everything I thought I knew. I can't fix what I did, but I can learn. If you'll let me. Saraya read it and looked at Jalen. You okay? Jalen smiled faintly. Yeah. I think I am. Months later, Vernon's health took a sharp turn. His legs gave out, and he fell on his porch, calling for help. The first person to reach him was Jalen. Jalen called the ambulance. He stayed with Vernon until it arrived. Rode to the hospital with him. Waited by his side. When the nurse asked if he was family, Jalen simply said, no. Just a neighbor. That's enough. Vernon passed away quietly one chilly December morning. At his funeral, There weren't many people, but Jalen was there. He stood quietly by the casket. No words were needed. A few days later, Jalen received a package in the mail. Inside was Vernon's old pocket watch, an American flag folded tightly, and a note: "Thanks for seeing me when I didn't deserve to be seen." Life went on. Jalen expanded his driving service. Amira grew older. Saraya started teaching part-time. And though Vernon's porch now sat empty, the creak of that rocking chair sometimes echoed in Jalen's memory. Not as a symbol of hate, but of change. Because sometimes, the hardest roads aren't the ones you drive. They're the ones that lead through fear, pride, and history towards something better. And Jalen Trustin, son of the South, father, husband, and cab driver had driven them all.